Welcome to the Pop Culture Diary. This is your go-to spot for trends, gossip, and throwbacks. I'm your host, Paige, and each week we're flipping through the pages of pop culture history. We'll talk about everything from neon-soaked 80s nights to the wild early days of the 2000s and beyond. You can expect the fashions, the music, the movies, the biggest news headlines, the scandals, and basically everything that had us talking, laughing, and obsessing. So grab some snacks, get cozy, and let's rewind the pages of time. 1982 was a turning point. The world was in political upheaval. Music was changing forever. Movies were completely changing what it meant to feel wonder or terror. And a few scandals made headlines so juicy they still drip decades later. Grab your Walkman, adjust your shoulder pads, and log into a year when even Time magazine admitted that humans were not the most important story anymore. Welcome to 1982. Let's get right into the big headlines. 1982 wasted no time stirring the pot. In April, Argentina invaded the Falkland Islands, setting off a 10-week war with Britain. It was like a playground fight, except instead of name-calling, it was airstrikes and naval battles. Enter Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady. She wasn't about to let a few windswept rocks slip through her manicured fingers. By June, Britain had won. Argentina's military government was humiliated, and Margaret Thatcher's approval ratings shot up like a Thatcher-era interest rate. Back in the U.S., a tragedy hit Detroit. Vincent Chin, a 27-year-old Chinese American, was brutally beaten to death by two auto workers who blamed him for Japan's dominance in the auto industry. Except Vincent was not Japanese. The killers got light sentences, sparking outrage and igniting the Asian American civil rights movement. It was one of those moments that made people realize the justice system wasn't exactly just. Meanwhile, the Equal Rights Amendment fizzled out after 10 years of debate, failing to win enough state ratifications. Women were told, essentially, sorry, equality's not in fashion this season. And spoiler, we're still waiting. Another headline grabber. John Hinckley Jr., the man who shot Ronald Reagan in 1981 to impress Jodie Foster, went on trial. The verdict? Not guilty by reason of insanity. Americans were not thrilled because apparently shooting the president wasn't insane enough for some people. Then came one of the most shocking tragedies of the year. Princess Grace of Monaco, formerly Hollywood's Grace Kelly, died after suffering a stroke and crashing her car. The fairy tale of a movie star turned royal ended far too soon, casting a shadow over Monaco's sunshine. And as if Hollywood did not have enough drama, John DeLorean, the car maker behind the gull-winged wonder that would one day star in Back to the Future, was arrested in an FBI sting for cocaine trafficking. He was acquitted, but the trial left his reputation stalled somewhere on the side of the highway. Across the globe, Leonid Brezhnev, the Soviet leader who'd been in power so long he was practically Soviet furniture, died in November. He was replaced by Yuri Andropov, a man with all the warmth of a Siberian winter. If you needed an escape from the chaos, 1982's box office was more than happy to provide. The year's biggest hit was E.T., the Extraterrestrial, Steven Spielberg's heart-tugging alien story that made audiences cry, laugh, and suddenly crave Reese's Pieces. Elliot and his glowing-fingered friend became instant icons, and bicycles were never looked at the same way again. But if you weren't into adorable aliens, you could turn to horror. Poltergeist had TVs sucking children into the static and clowns terrorizing bedrooms. Suburban life was officially terrifying. Teenagers got their moment in the spotlight with Fast Times at Ridgemont High, where Sean Penn Spicoli defined stoner philosophy for a generation. Quote, "All I need are some tasty waves, a cool buzz, and I'm fine." End quote. The film didn't just capture teen life, it launched careers for Jennifer Jason Leigh, Judge Reinhold, and even a young Nicolas Cage. And let's not forget the darker side of Hollywood that year. On the set of Twilight Zone, the movie, a helicopter accident killed actor Vic Morrow and 2 child actors, sparking outrage and lawsuits that haunted the film industry for years. Now, grab your clicker and let's flip through television shows. On the TV front, the Golden Globes were thrown into scandal when Pia Zadora won New Star of the Year. Rumor had it her wealthy husband bought the award because when your career's shaky, it helps to have deep pockets. Meanwhile, cable TV was making history. CNN launched Headline News, a 24-hour feed of bite-sized news stories. The idea of endless news seemed strange at the time. Now, we'd call it Tuesday. Let's get into the music, because the music scene was pure electricity. Olivia Newton-John ruled the charts with Physical, making workout leotards and sweatbands hotter than any gym membership. Survivor's Eye of the Tiger roared onto the radio thanks to Rocky III, and suddenly everyone thought they could box. Spoiler, they couldn't. Joan Jett gave us I Love Rock and Roll, an anthem that turned jukeboxes into declarations of rebellion. Meanwhile, Paul McCartney and Stevie Wonder tried to teach the world about harmony, literally, with Ebony and Ivory. The reviews were not all glowing, but hey, the message was nice. But the real earthquake came in November. Michael Jackson released Thriller. The album didn't just sell, it rewrote music history. 7 top 10 singles, record-breaking sales, music videos that became cultural events, and that red leather jacket, suddenly everyone wanted one. MTV may have launched the year before, but Thriller turned it into a cultural juggernaut. Not only that, gossip swirled around how eccentric he was. The pet animals, the glove, and whispers that Wacko Jacko wasn't far from becoming his tabloid nickname. For sheer spectacle, nothing topped Ozzy Osbourne biting the head off a live bat at a show in Iowa. He thought it was fake until he realized it wasn't. A round of rabies shots later, Ozzy's legend was cemented. Mick Jagger never left the gossip pages, his casual flings and affairs keeping rock and roll, excessive indulgence, and sensual pleasures alive. Stevie Nicks was flying high after Belladonna in 1981, but rumors of love triangles, breakups, and wild backstage antics with Fleetwood Mac never died down. Punk was giving way to new wave, and with it came outlandish fashion and more outlandish behavior. Think hair gel budgets higher than some movie productions. So let's go through the top 10 Billboard Hot 100 singles of 1982. Coming in at number 1, Olivia Newton-John with Physical. Number 2, Survivor's Eye of the Tiger. Number 3, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts' I Love Rock and Roll. Coming in at number 4, Paul McCartney and Stevie Wonder with Ebony and Ivory. Number 5, the Jay Gales Band with Centerfold. Number 6, the Human League's Don't You Want Me. Number 7 and 8 belong to John Cougar Mellencamp, with number 7 being Jack and Diane and number 8, Hurt So Good. Number 9, Soft Cell's Tainted Love. And coming in at number 10 was Chicago with Hard to Say I'm Sorry. Billboard had their top 200 albums of 1982, and these were the top 10. Number 1, Asia, with their self-titled album. Coming in at number 2 was John Cougar Mellencamp, American Fool. Number 3, the Go-Go's album, Beauty and the Beat. Coming in at number 4 was Fleetwood Mac with their album, Mirage. Number 5, Men at Work with Business as Usual. Number 6, Paul McCartney with Tug of War. Number 7, Aldo Nova with their self-titled album. Number 8, The Human League with Dare. Number 9, Stevie Nicks, Belladonna. And coming in at number 10 was Rick Springfield with Success Hasn't Spoiled Me Yet. 1982 was the year of anthems and power hits, from Eye of the Tiger, turning every treadmill into a Rocky montage, to Tainted Love, making heartbreak sound like a goth dance party. If 1981 set the stage for bold fashion, 1982 cranked the volume all the way up to You're Going to See Me Whether You Want to or Not. Shoulder pads were still dominating in 1982. Women in the workplace were dressing like they were about to body slam anyone in their way. Think Dynasty wardrobes, sharp tailoring, sequins, and I will crush you in this boardroom but still look fabulous doing it energy. Jane Fonda's workout tapes hit in the early 80s and instantly turned neon spandex into casual wear. Suddenly, it was socially acceptable to look like you just stepped out of an aerobics class, whether or not you'd ever lifted a leg warmer in your life. Jeans went from casual to luxury statement. Labels like Jordache, Calvin Klein, and Guess made denim a high-fashion staple. Brooke Shields' infamous Nothing Comes Between Me and My Calvins ad, still echoing in America's collective memory and in every suburban mall. Chunky plastic jewelry, massive belts, and sunglasses that looked big enough to shield your entire face from the sun were everywhere. If your earrings couldn't double as a weapon in a street fight, you were not doing it right. The Preppy Handbook dropped in 1980, and by 1982, the trend was in full swing. Popped collars, pastel sweaters, and boat shoes galore. Basically, the uniform of every future frat boy was born here. 1982 style was either I'm about to break into an aerobics montage or I'm Joan Collins and I will eat you alive. There was no middle ground. 82 was a huge year for toys, where old classics meshed with innovative tech. Home gaming was at its peak with the Atari 2600. Kids were glued to Pong, Pac-Man, and Space Invaders. The graphics may have been blocky enough to make your eyes cross, but at the time, it was mind-blowing. And yep, the infamously terrible E.T. video game would follow in 1982, making landfill history. By 82, Rubik's Cubes were in every household, every school desk, every frustrated kid's bedroom. The World Cube Championship was even held in Hungary, where competitors raced to solve it in seconds. All the while, the rest of us were still peeling the stickers off and arranging them pretending to be champs to all our friends and families. Mattel's toy line exploded in popularity, paving the way for the cartoon He-Man and Masters of the Universe. Every kid suddenly wanted a castle, a sword, and a plastic muscle-bound action figure who yelled, "I have the power." There was also My Little Pony. These pastel ponies debuted in 82, complete with colorful manes and cutesy symbols on their rumps. A toy that somehow managed to be adorable, collectible, and slightly creepy when you had 20 of them lined up. When it came to board games, Trivial Pursuit was first published in 82 and quickly became the game to prove you knew random trivia that nobody cared about, until they lost and cared very much. 1982 toys dared to ask, do you want your entertainment blocky, pastel, or capable of giving you carpal tunnel before you hit middle school? Let's talk about the world of tech and gadgets of 1982. CDs hit the market. Compact discs debuted in Japan, with Sony and Philips pushing the shiny little discs as the next big thing in music. Suddenly, vinyl wasn't just for boomers, it was getting dethroned. Commodore 64, the best-selling computer of all time, dropped in 82. Affordable, colorful, and revolutionary for home computing. Kids who got one were the envy of the block, even if half the time it just displayed "ready." Still reigning supreme, the Walkman turned every sidewalk into a potential runway. By 82, it wasn't just a gadget, it was a lifestyle. Bonus points if you rewound your mixtapes with a pencil. Then we had camcorders and VHS. The VHS versus Betamax war was still raging, but by 82, VHS had pretty much secured the crown. Families were now recording birthday parties, embarrassing dance recitals, and way too many hours of shaky camcorder footage. While still the size of bricks and reserved for the rich, the groundwork for mobile phones was well underway. Imagine carrying something heavier than your lunchbox just to make a call. In 82, the gadgets were screaming, "The future is now." If you could afford a computer, a Walkman, and maybe a 20-pound camcorder. Otherwise, the future was watching someone else show it off. Oh, now we get into the celebrity gossip. Up first, we have Richard Pryor's fire incident fallout. The infamous 1980 freebasing accident where Richard Pryor set himself on fire was still making headlines in 1982. His return to the stage had people whispering, was he a survivor, a cautionary tale, or both? Hollywood spun it as a miracle comeback, but comedians behind the scenes treated it as dark material for years. Saturday Night Live was in its shaky years, but Eddie Murphy was the breakout star who single-handedly saved it. Gumby, Buckwheat, Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood, Eddie Murphy wasn't just famous, he was the new face of comedy. Studios started chasing him, and rumors swirled about whether he would ditch SNL too soon. He would, and he'd conquer movies. Then the Kennedy curse continued. The Kennedys could not escape the spotlight or the drama. William Kennedy Smith's scandals were bubbling. Jackie O's every move was scrutinized, and John F. Kennedy Jr. was already being dubbed America's Prince. Even in 1982, tabloid culture could not resist their tragedies, romances, and mysterious aura. Of course, there was Joan Collins and Dynasty Mania. Joan turned Dynasty into the most deliciously scandalous soap on TV, and her off-screen reputation was just as buzzy. Joan Collins leaned into her man-eater image, feeding gossip columns with juicy tidbits about her marriages, affairs, and diamond-dripping lifestyle. She became the blueprint for tabloid stardom. We all still had Princess Diana fever. 2 years into her marriage with Prince Charles, Diana was the global obsession. The fashion, the fairy tale, the charity work, and the cracks beginning to show. By 82, rumors were already whispering about Charles and Camilla. Meanwhile, Diana gave birth to Prince William that summer, and the press practically camped outside her hospital window. And there were Hollywood's odd couples. Burt Reynolds and Lonnie Anderson were everywhere, matching tans, glitzy appearances, and rumors of things going sour. They were the golden couple of gossip. Cher's love life stayed under a microscope. She was dating younger men, reinventing her image, and keeping the tabloids fed. Even in 82, Elizabeth Taylor couldn't escape the gossip cycle. Multiple marriages, illnesses, and diamonds that could blind the press. She was always relevant, even when she wasn't starring in anything. 1982 gossip was a cocktail of royal fairy tales cracking at the seams, soap opera villains spilling into real life, and rock stars proving that eyeliner and scandal were inseparable. If the 70s gave us wildness, the 80s made it glossy, televised, and impossible to escape at the grocery store checkout. That's it for today's trip through the Pop Culture Diary. Thanks for tuning in and taking a trip back in time for a hit of nostalgia with me. Don't forget to follow the podcast wherever you get your shows, rate, review, and keep an eye out for the podcast on social media over on Instagram at ThePopCultureDiary Podcast, Twitter at PopCultDiaryPod, Tumblr at The Pop Culture Diary Podcast, and the Facebook page, The Pop Culture Diary, for more pop culture fun, extras, and behind-the-scenes madness. Until next time, everyone take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next episode.